Hello and welcome to another episode of the Opportunity Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Elfring, head of marketing over here at Empire Flippers. And today I am speaking with Jason Boyce, the CEO and founder of Avenue 7 Media. And this was a great episode. This guy is almost might be the most OG Amazon FBA seller I have ever spoken to. He started back in 2001, built a massive Amazon FBA brand in the basketball niche, and then he branched out to other sports and stuff and sold the business successfully in 2019, and now is running a pretty interesting agency, and he has a lot of knowledge to share. There's a particular point about, I think, a little bit towards the middle of the podcast, we start talking about price, and I just double click because I agreed with everything you're saying, especially with how you need to start marketing at the bottom of the funnel. So a lot of really good value here. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it, whether you're an Amazon seller or not, because a lot of what he talks about isn't just Amazon, it's e-commerce and honestly marketing in general. So I think this is a very, very great episode. With that said, I'll stop talking. We'll get into the meat of it, and I'll see you on the other side. All right. I have Jason Boyce with me here today. We were talking a little bit offline. I think this is going to be a pretty fun interview. But for my audience that may not be familiar with you, why don't you talk a little bit about who you are and where you are in the world right now?
Well, sure, Greg. And thank you for having me on your great podcast. I've heard about Empire Flippers over the years and heard nothing but great things. So love what you guys do for the seller community. Greg, I'm what they call one of the old guys of Amazon selling. I started selling in 2003. I started an e-commerce website back in 2002 called superduperhoops.com. I had just left the Marine Corps. I had one final paycheck, bought a computer with my brother Ari, and we launched superduperhoops.com. We were drop shipping basketball hoops all over the country. So we never touched one.
Wow.
But we were huge Laker fans. I grew up in LA, so we were huge Laker fans. And then we're like, oh, let's sell basketball hoops and we can drop ship them and we don't have to carry inventory. And it was magic. And we were all over the internet at the time because there was this company called Overture. It had a tiny office in Pasadena. This company invented pay-per-click advertising. It later got bought by Yahoo. Google copied them and Yahoo sued them. And I think there's still some kind of a payoff going on there that's funding Yahoo businesses still. But we were all over the internet, and Amazon called in 2003 and said, we want you to sell your hoops on Amazon. So we were literally the very first seller of basketball hoops on Amazon.com. They had just launched sports and outdoors category. It was a free for all. They were trying to figure everything out. And I did that for about 17 years, built a top 100 Amazon seller business. I wrote a book about my experience called The Amazon Jungle here over my right shoulder. And I said top 200 sellers. Someone told me the other day, at the time we sold, we were a top 100 seller. So we grew into a big company, expanding into other categories like home rec, air hockey, foosball, very difficult things to ship and assemble in the home. We cracked the code and all that, sold that company, and then started the agency. I have a lot of scar tissue, Greg, that I learned over 17 years of, making mistakes and learning from it. And then, the interesting thing is when I exited that business, I thought I knew, you would think I thought I knew everything there was to know about Amazon over the course of 17 years, right? What more could I learn? Then I started an agency. Myself and a small group of folks in the Philippines at the time started an agency, and we started helping brands. And it became clear in that first year how much more I still had to learn. Like my niche, I knew very, very well, but CPG was a challenge. Clothing and apparel was a challenge. All these different categories, all these different business types with all these different personalities that run these business types and how to communicate with them. And I had the agency now for more than 6 years, Avenue 7 Media. And we do that. We're a tech-enabled managed service provider. We do a thing for you on Amazon, or we do everything for you, full service and everything in between.
That's awesome. I mean, what a story. Your apparel thing made me laugh because my sister, she sees what I do. She's a teacher, but she sees me selling all these businesses, right? So she got excited, got into Amazon FBA. And I told her specifically, do not do apparel, because I think that's a very challenging one for someone brand new, not just to e-commerce, but business, like business in general. Like, no, why wouldn't I do that? Like, because you have all the child SKUs, you got to do it blue, red, all the different sizes.
Returns.
So of course. Oh, yeah. So she started a yoga pants business with one size, one color. Obviously, it did not pan well for her. I'm originally from Alaska, and she was up there visiting too. So I drove to this gym and sold her yoga pants in person, and tried to help her out.
Yeah, Greg, let me tell you, the apparel business and the shoe business, I think, is even more complicated than
Oh
apparel.
man.
We have a couple of marquee apparel clients. We actually built our own technology to help manage it. And if I could just take a minute, I'll explain what the
Sure.
technology does. We call it walk the store tech. And so every day we're checking to make sure that we call the source of truth. Your marketing materials, your listing, your variation grouping is the way it's supposed to be. And our tool alerts to us if a product title changes or a rogue ASIN attaches to a listing or one of your variation breaks off. Those all have really negative impacts on your apparel or your shoe business. Keeping those parent-child ASIN groupings tight and clean is really, really hard. We could not scale enough human bodies to manage it for some of our bigger brands. So we built the tech, and that's another piece of our tech that I was sharing with you ahead of before we started the show that we're launching. We literally, Greg, we built it out of necessity. We were like, this shouldn't be so hard. We've got to figure out how to do this so that it scales and so that we can make our promise to our client brands. And it's been pretty amazing tech, and it's been helping us a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I'm curious, you had to be one of the top and one of the very first private labeler businesses on Amazon, right? I remember, so I joined Empire Flippers in 2016, and we started selling FBA businesses, I think, in 2017.
Yeah.
And I remember Amazon telling us, you cannot sell accounts. No.
Right.
Selling businesses, businesses. What do you mean? You can't stop them from selling their business. Oh, no, that's fine. So every transaction we did, we had to get on the phone with Amazon and stuff. So it sounds like you did it. You sold your business before 2017, I assume, right?
No, 2019 was when I fully exited. Yeah. It was really the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. I was out already, and so that's when I did it.
Well, you're welcome for paving the path with the customer service for you.
Yeah. Yes. It was quite the journey. We've had this front row seat from the launch of the marketplace till today. That's been pretty amazing. You could write it. A movie should be done on this marketplace. And to be honest, Greg, I started as a reseller. My heart goes out to sellers. I still have a soft spot in my heart for resellers. But then at some point, about 5 years in, I realized after Amazon had started selling all of the same Spalding hoops I was selling, we were the number one e-commerce seller of Spalding basketball products on the internet for about 3 straight years. We sold so much Spalding stuff that they invited us to the NBA All-Star game and put us up in the Ritz with the players every single year for 3 or 4 years in a row. And then Amazon started buying from Spalding, and then we were like, we can't compete with Amazon. We need to create our own brands. And so we developed, our first product, I think, was a foosball table. It was a disaster. We learned from it. We developed a brand called the Harville, Harvil, and it became a top selling brand for air hockey, basketball hoops. And then ultimately we were expanding into fitness at the time we exited the business. But that's kind of how it rolled out. So yeah, it was crazy. It's hard for me to even remember some of the chaos that started from 2003 to that 2019, but it was a great frame of reference. And I like that experience. And our COO, Liz LaValle, she spent 16 years building a $50 million business at Vermont Teddy Bear and Pajamagram. So she also has those learnings. So between the two of us, we can tell some more stories with you, Greg.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Well, shout out to developing a foosball table. That's actually one of my favorite sports. I'm surprisingly good at it. There's pool sharks. I'm a foosball shark, but no one expects the foosball sharks. I always win the first couple bets. The first time I think it's a fluke. The next time, I'm never betting with Greg again on this.
Man, Greg, if only I knew you back then, we could have got an endorsement deal with you.
Yeah, influencer sponsorship over here. Well, talk to me. I want to get into your agency, but before we move into your agency, why did you decide to exit the business? What inspired to do that?
Well, it was a family business. I started it with 3 of my brothers. One of the brothers left at about year 8 or so. I love my brothers. And by the time we had been working together for 17 years, we had it. We were done with each other, right? Like we all had our own direction that we wanted to take the business, all of which were great ideas. But by the time, year 17 rolled around, we all said, look, I love you. I'm starting to not like you anymore. So let's sell this business so we can save our family relationship, right?
That's very wise of you. We have a lot of what I call the business divorces on our marketplace, right?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
two partners can't agree for whatever reason. So their exit route is, exiting the business. So that is one of the main, when I do webinars, is one of the primary common reasons I give is business partnership breakups, right? It sounds like everything was amicable and you got a good sell. So
everything was great. I say this sometimes, there's two ways to really know somebody. One, you can marry them. The person that you marry is very different from the person that you learn to love after you've married them, right? You just, you get to see warts and all after marriage, after that honeymoon period. Or you can go into business with somebody. You can really learn everything that you need to know about them. And sometimes the things that you learn are great. Other times the things that you learn are like, oh my God, I'm stuck in this business relationship now and I can't get out. Right.
yeah.
So it is one of I'm sure you deal with this all the time, Greg. It is a tricky one. Family businesses add a layer of complexity that is very challenging. I personally don't ever want to be in another family business, but I gained a lot of meaning and growth out of the family business that I had. And, we all hugged it out after it was over and we're all still a happy family.
That's great. Yeah. I think that's for our listeners out there, a lot of people, they want to give away equity like really quick to get like someone in and helping them. And
don't do it. Don't do it.
It's the most expensive trap you're making for yourself right from day one. Like
That's
it's
right.
bad.
That's the most expensive capital. That's right. I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's what inspired you to get into an agency, because usually my agency friends, they're always like, I want to be a product owner. I don't want to be an agency owner. So
sure.
You went the other way. So talk to me a bit about that.
Well, I had already built a successful brand and, had great success there. The thing that, I'm a little ADHD, Greg. So I like to be bouncing around and moving and working on 100 things all at once. It makes me feel like I'm having a good day when I can do that. With the brand, my most exciting times during the brand is when we were rebranding, when we were learning from the customer and figuring out how to present a new brand. I love the product development. That's the one piece I miss about it. I love developing new, cool, sexy, effective products that people will give you 5 stars for. I really got the bug for that. That's the only thing I miss about the product brand. But what would happen is I would do a rebrand and I'd be like, oh man, this is so good. And that was so much fun. And then it would be over. And then I was like, now what? And I kept wanting to come back. My brothers, I'd drive them crazy. I'd want to rebrand every 6 months because I just loved that process. And, I loved the marketing angles and I loved the consultation and the brand strategy piece. And like, once we'd figured out the brand strategy and we were executing, I was getting bored. And so when I left, I was like, geez, I've got 17 years of experience. There's not a lot of people that can say that. At the time I started the agency, I'm just going to start a little lifestyle business. I'm going to be a consultant. I'll get, 6 or 7 clients and I'll help point them in the right direction. And then what happened is after the first 3 months, I was so frustrated because I would show up to this call with these very busy business owners and they're running around with their hair on fire. They're trying to make sure that they can make payroll. They're trying to make sure their warehouse operations are working. They're buying stuff. They're dealing with their factories. And I would show up and go, okay, do these 75 things and let's check in next week, right? And then next month would roll around and they had done none of it, right? Because they're busy. And I was like, fine, forget it. Just give it to me. I'm going to do this. You have so much opportunity in front of you on Amazon. I can appreciate you don't have the time to do this yourselves. Give it to me. I will spin up a team. Give me a rip of your sales. Give me a small rip and I will drive your business to be 7 figures, 8 figures, and from there. And that's how we developed this sort of full service agency at the time, just out of pure frustration, because our brands could not do the stuff that was second nature to me that they did. First of all, they had trouble understanding, and they certainly didn't have the time or energy to execute. So that was kind of how we started it. This whole lifestyle thing, my wife's still pissed at me. I learned something about myself through this process. I thought, it'll be easy. I'll work, I work 20, 30 hours a week. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I'm a workaholic and I was not happy unless I was exhausted at the end of the day. And so, I ended up bringing in an amazing executive team outside of the industry. I brought in this great executive team outside of the industry, Dale Dabbs, Angela Murphy. They had built a world-class tech-enabled service business in the identity protection space. And I wanted to replicate that in the Amazon space. So I brought them in. And then, that's how we've built what I consider, I'm sure others would argue, but I think we're a top tier Amazon agency. Our new director of traffic, Chris Hull, said this the other day. We're the best kept secret in Amazon. We need to start marketing better because a lot of folks still don't know who we are, but we nail it. We nail it across all of the 7 avenues.
Well, that's always one of the critical points of failure. So when we sell agencies, it's like the agencies are really good at marketing, but they do zero marketing for themselves.
Yes.
So
yes.
I always joke, like, marketing agency owners are the worst clients because, like, say you're selling to a local plumber, like, oh, I built my business on word of mouth referrals. Marketer is trying to get over that objective. And I talk to an agency owner, I'll build a word of mouth referrals. Like, guys, I see the problem with this.
Yeah. That's been us, Greg. That's been us. We have so many referrals. We have clients refer to us. We have Amazon refer to us. And, we have all of these friends of Av7, we call them out there, that are constantly sending us business. And, I think this agency game is changing. It's changed a lot in the last 6 months. It's going to change even more in the next 6 to 9 months. We could talk more about that later in the pod, but, we're going to start doing some more marketing. We're going to get out there more. I did quite a bit at launch, but then I got so busy managing and running the agency and building the processes and bringing in and developing the talent so that I didn't have to be, I could have time to come do a podcast with you, Greg, that sort of thing.
Coming out with Grandpa Empire over here. I've been in the M&A game for like 10 years. I was like employee number 4 at EF. So I always joke I'm Grandpa Empire. Yeah, employee number 4. I got hired at the same time with another guy. So we always debate on who's number 4. But let's talk a bit about what you're doing for these agencies. So you are using retail media, right? Which is a bit of a buzzword. Maybe what we can do here is define what do we mean by retail media? Because most of my audience, I think if they hear that phrase, they're probably thinking like traditional Amazon PPC. Yeah. Describe how you are using retail media for an Amazon store.
So retail media, to me, it's day one, right? Let's start at the 40,000 foot view. I remember when Jeff Bezos said, we'll never sell ads on our platform. We're going to stay organic. And I remember seeing that quote and going, oh, sure. And of course, now it's probably, by gross margin basis, it's probably easily the most profitable part of their business. Most investors from PEs will fight you and say, no, it's AWS bullshit. It's not AWS. It's ads. It's ads revenue. I guarantee you. And so, this idea that Amazon or other .coms have their own real estate that they can then resell and drive revenue and traffic and interest and ranking for organic listings. I don't know that it was pioneered by Amazon, but certainly it became real once Amazon started doing it. And to your point, Greg, pay-per-click advertising is definitely part of that. The reason why I say it's day one is because I'm thinking of the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, right? Where everywhere you go, you get a retinal scan and whatever marketing tech is there is serving you your interests and what you want and all of that. We are quickly heading to that. We're in a very fast pace. We're heading to Minority Report type of advertising. And so when I think of retail media, to me, it's a much broader umbrella now than it ever was. It used to be just reselling your space on your e-commerce platform because you have, 150 million people come into your site every month or every week or every day, whatever it is these days. But now what's amazing, and this is part of what we call our traffic avenue, is what Amazon has done. In the old days, Greg, when a brand would come to us and they didn't have any brand awareness, measured by go look at Google, see who's searching for their brand, look at Google search for branded keywords on Amazon. If it was bingo or it was very low, we would say to them, look, Amazon is going to be a very unprofitable channel for you. You really should not come to Amazon yet. Go post 2-3 times a day on every social media, build up your brand awareness, do Facebook, build your audience, do all those things, get some interest and get people searching for your brand name. And once we hit a certain number of brand keywords search on Amazon, come on over, because that will help you drive your organic rank. It'll be a lot less expensive than paying outrageous PPCs to drive your ranking and your traffic. And that's what we used to say. Now we say, if you're a brand new agency with very little brand recognition, we say, oh, do we have some options for you on Amazon now? Because we have Amazon Marketing Cloud. After you get 2,000 orders through sponsored ads, we can identify the audience segments of who your customers are in the Amazon shopping experience. We can take that audience and we can look-alike that audience. Then we can open those brands up to DSP, demand side platform, where we're sending static and video display. We start DSP. We have this stair-step approach, Greg, that is really effective. And then at the end, I'll tell you why it's so important. And this is a very unique moment in time for brands. We do bottom funnel DSP. We do retargeting. We do competitor conquesting, very high ROAS. We're still talking about return on ad spend. We're still talking about tacos. Numbers are amazing. Bottom funnel DSP is better than sponsored display, retargeting, and competitor conquesting. You can do so much more with it. There's 20 times more functionality that allows you to laser in. You fine tune that audience more. Then when you know who that audience is, you look alike that audience, and then you go mid to upper funnel and you start to grow your new to brand customers. Our stair step is we want to get as many of those customers who know who we are at the bottom of the funnel as long as it takes. And then once we start to see some of that tail off, it's time to go harvest and find new shoppers, because there's two ways to grow your business. Number one, you can sell more stuff to your existing customers. It's why on the Amazon game, introducing new products has always been a very winning strategy, right? It's like, oh, you like widget X. I got widget X plus 2. You need this one now. So that's a great way to do it. Or you can introduce your product to new people that don't know who you are. And if you can introduce your brand and your product to people who don't know who you are, but who have those signals and characteristics of your existing customer base, magic happens and you can see a hockey stick growth channel. That's DSP. I'm doing a deep dive into our third avenue, which is the traffic avenue right now, Greg. Just a couple more stair steps here. We live in that upper funnel DSP. We're pushing videos, multiple types of videos to identify what the Amazon shopper is reacting to the most and, what kind of engagement is there. And then once we've nailed it, we take that creative. Sometimes we use the same mobile creative and we go to CTV. We go in and we do, television advertising through the Prime Video app. The way that we do this is very different from the way television media has been done forever. The old way is you pour a bunch of money at the top of the funnel, you burn a bunch of cash, you spray and pray, and hopefully with any luck, brands start to trickle down to the bottom. You got to have a big budget. You got to have, the ability to burn cash. That's branding costs, not sales costs. And you're raising awareness, and only the biggest brands can do that. You need big funding, et cetera. But what Amazon has done is, and what we do at App7 is we flip that upside down. We start building that audience from the ground up and we stair step it. We do the sponsored ads. We do the DSP lower funnel. Then we go upper funnel and we fine tune it. And then we take that audience that we know very well and we put those TV commercials in front of that audience. We don't care what show they're watching. We don't care when they're watching it. We just want to make sure that our audience is the one that's watching it. And that is the most exciting thing that I have seen in my 23, 24 years of being in this game, Greg, because for the first time since 1946, when cathode ray tubes were going into people's homes and a little company nobody ever heard of called Procter & Gamble was migrating all of its radio ads onto TV for all of its consumer product brands, this is that moment in time right now. It is for the first time in a very long time, a challenger brand for the cost of meta ads can build trust, scale audience, and grow the crap out of their new to brand audiences with connected TV, with streaming TV.
That's awesome. So a couple of things on what you just said there, I can tell you're a marketer after my own heart because we're in a bit of an echo chamber. Because I always tell people, they think, oh, I should build my audience first and then sell them something, very top of funnel, right?
Yeah.
I would say, why start at the top? The top is infinite. There's infinite things you can do there. By the bottom, there's a finite amount of things that you should be talking about or trying to do, right? So I always recommend going to the bottom. So DSP, before we move on, I want you to explain DSP because I know there's going to be some, even Amazon sellers that may not know what it is.
Sure.
So I've played with DSP a long time ago. I don't know if it's still this way, but last time I tried it, you still had to go through it like an agency because it had such a high spend you had to do to even get access to it. Is that still true or is it more democratized now?
You can work with an agency or a tech partner who have what's called an Amazon DSP seat. So our agency
That's
has a
yeah,
seat,
yeah, yeah.
so you can come to us and then, we'll manage it for you. We take a small agency fee. Amazon takes its rip, and the rest goes to driving impressions and click through and detail page views. And
Awesome. So let's explain what DSP is for the audience, because I'm
sure.
sure there's people who don't know what it is.
Yeah. So DSP, put plainly, is, it's Facebook display, but for Amazon. It's display ads, it's online video ads, it's mobile video ads. They will go all over the internet, put your ad in front of your customer that you identified through that DSP seat and with your Amazon Marketing Cloud insights, and it just delivers results. I mean, we always start with bottom funnel DSP. That retargeting, I'm not kidding you, Greg. We have a 10 ROAS for a company that we have been running DSP retargeting for 60 days. It started off with a 1 ROAS and it 10x'd in the next month because we laser focused in on that brand. Now, when we go up funnel, that 10 comes down to, it can come down to a 3, it can come down to 2.5, but now you're growing new to brand. If you're a CPG company, you're growing subscribers. You're priming the pump for the next round of shoppers that are going to love your brand, assuming your other avenues are all aligned, and are going to talk about your brand and shout your name from the rooftops. And so that's the magic of DSP, Amazon Marketing Cloud together. These data clean rooms have been around for a long time. And so Yahoo has data clean room. Trade Desk has data clean room. So it's just this big bucket of audiences. Visa, MasterCard are trying to, they've got their own data clean room. I love Amazon's because Amazon knows what you buy. Amazon knows what you buy. I mean, Visa, MasterCard, sure, but Amazon knows what you buy. They know what you watch. It's the best pure marketing audience data that I've ever seen in my 24-year career.
Yeah, I always compare DSP to being kind of similar to GDN, the Google Display Network, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Another great example.
Everywhere. So, yeah, thanks for that definition. Because,
sure,
like last time I heard or even looked at DSP was years ago. I remember a lot of our sellers or FBA sellers had no real clue even that it existed,
Yeah.
So I'm glad we got that out there. So you have 7 different avenues you're recommending for profitable growth. So we just kind of touched on, I guess, what is your third avenue, traffic, but what are the other 6 avenues? Just like maybe real quick, describe what those are.
Yeah, sure. I'm not good at doing anything real quick, Greg, but I'll do my best.
Go real long then. So as long-winded as you like.
I mentioned our president, Dale Dabbs, the best CEO I've ever met in my entire life. I begged him to be our CEO when he came on as an investor with AB7. He said, no, you be the CEO, I'll be the president. So Dale watched me when I was managing some brands early days, and I had 49 browsers open on my Chrome browser, and I was clicking around, and 5 minutes before I jumped on with the client, I was figuring out the strategy, and I was delivering, prioritizing, and saying, we need to focus on this right now. And so Dale watched me do that 5, 6, 7, a dozen times. And he came back and he said, Jason, here's the problem. You got a great business. You got great brand strategy knowledge. But if we don't pull out what's between your ears and put it on paper, into a process, into our strategy, we are never going to be able to scale this agency. You'll scale it and you'll lose everybody because nobody quite understands the way your process is. And so that was the beginning of about a 2-year process for us developing what we call, it's now patent pending, our 7 avenues strategy. And it means there's 7 buckets, there's 7 avenues where if you are in the green on a red, yellow, green scale, if you're in the green on all 7 avenues, you are going to win on Amazon. And the very first one it starts with is what we call presence. If your product can't get clicked on, searched for, clicked on, and added to cart, you got a presence problem. It's costing you money. It's costing you profit. This presence avenue is what makes Amazon 10 times more difficult than a Shopify website. Shopify is not trying to take your listings down unless they get heat from one of those 3-letter agencies, right? They're not doing that. Amazon bots are doing it all the time. The data is inconsistent. The API data doesn't match what's on the front end. Seller Central doesn't match what's in the API. It's really, really hard. You get search repressed. You get, you run out of stock and if you don't have a tool, it's hard to manage that. Your listing's taken down. Your account can go down. It's a nightmare. So presence avenue is number 1. Dale introduced the second avenue, which is financial. He and I have this friendly argument internally all the time about which should be first. Dale manages our CFO and all of our finances. He says, financial should be number 1. I'm like, well, we always have this argument. I said, but if your listings can't get searched, clicked on, and added to cart, you've got no finances. It's bingo. It's 0.
I agree with you.
And so we have this fun argument about these different avenues: presence avenue, financial avenue, included in our financial avenue, we have forecasting, revenue scenario modeling, profit margin down to the SKU, all the way down to the SKU, parent-child SKU, ASIN level. We're creating P&Ls. We're not accountants or financial people, but we've consulted with enough to know that our P&L is very strong. Sometimes it's really hard to know if you're making any money on Amazon. And by the way, we started building P&Ls when a brand would come to us and say, I'm not going to do Amazon anymore. I'm not making any money on Amazon. I'm like, what? Forget this. I'll do a P&L and I'll show you. And then you see that their contribution margin is 35%. You're like, you're top 5% in profit margin on the Amazon channel. Do not tell me you're not making any money. And that's after our fees, right? So we built this P&L. That's the financial avenue. I gave you a good overview.
Just real quick on the P&L
Sure.
thing, man. That is so spot on. Like we've had Amazon FBA sellers come and we'll vet the businesses, right? And we build their P&L for presentation on the marketplace. But it's very, very common where the seller thinks, like after we're done with the P&L, we're like, oh, wow, I'm not making nearly as much money as I thought. Or, oh, wow, I'm making a lot more money than I thought. Because to your point, like it can be a bit confusing with how Amazon presents these. So,
I was recently at a Voice of the Agency event at Amazon, and one of the executives there, I told them, I said, look, it took us 6 months to grab all the API data points to build a P&L. And they're like, can you send it to us? I was like, no. Like, my question is, why don't you have this already for brands so that they can see it? And all you have to do is go to QuickBooks and load up their templatized P&L to see a pretty good example of what a P&L should look like, right? A profit and loss statement. So anyway, funny side story. So presence, financial, very critically important, traffic. The next one, which has become so much more important in the last 2 or 3 years because of the Amazon Marketing Cloud, is customer. If you don't know who your customer is, your ads aren't going to work as well. If you don't know who your customer is, you can't do the next avenue, which is creative. Your creative should speak to who your customer is. What are their demographics? What are their interests? What are the use cases that they're going to apply to your product? That's got to be in your creative. It's not in your creative. Your click-through and your conversion rates are not going to work. So customer, creative. The next one is product. You could do all those other things I just talked about really, really well. But if your product stinks and you're getting 2-star reviews and you're not iterating and using that customer-driven innovation to make your products better, you will lose. And then that final avenue is the rivals. I think I got all 7 in there, Craig. It's a lot. I really wanted it to be 3 avenues. We could not do it. And it's because e-commerce is very complicated. It is deceptively complicated. Most people think, oh, this is so easy. I'll throw a thing up on a page and then the orders will come in and everything will be easy. And then if you look at Amazon, it's 10 times more complicated than your regular e-commerce because of the presence issues. And so we developed this strategy. All of these things were firing in my brain when I was looking at results for brands. We just hadn't put it on paper. Every one of our client meetings starts with doing a 7 avenues strategy. Every new onboard, we identify where their priorities should be. And then our team is even organized across those 7 avenues. We have directors leading each of those avenues that work with and for our brand growth strategists. And then now, of course, we're building our tech around the 7 avenues strategy. And the tech is, we could talk about that for 2 hours, but the tech that we're building to help get that most important data prioritized, analyzed, and insights delivered to our brands is sort of the next phase of App 7.
I love the whole 7-figure, or not 7 avenues, but at least 7 figures, 8 figures. I like that. And I think your co-founder was right in getting you to write that down because, agencies, they're the perennial problem of agencies. Usually you have a founder like you who are really, really, really good. And then you scale up. So you need a junior and the junior, not so good.
Yeah.
So, but that's like the issue with scaling agencies, right? You need to have good knowledge transfer. So I think that's a good thing you guys did. Moving into
to separate the wheat from the chaff in the agency business, if an agency cannot provide strategy, then they won't make it. They won't be here next year. If they don't have really good strategists because of the AI technology, because of the tariff pressures, because of all the macroeconomic things that are happening and this massive technological change where everything is being rebuilt on top of a large language model with AI, if you're not a strategist as an agency, you should sell right now because next year is going to get really painful. That's my crystal ball, Greg.
I will amend that statement and say, even if you are the strategist, of course you should sell. Come visit like
Touche.
come
Fair
over to the
enough.
marketplace. But
Call
I
Greg.
do
Sell it.
I do agree with you. You know, I was just on another podcast earlier today, and I told them, like, because they asked me about the fears of AI changing everything, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty peaceful with it. Like, I think AI is changing everything, but I think it's
Yeah.
mostly going to be good, at least if you're the entrepreneur. But I told them it's kind of like Photoshop. You know, I can go into Photoshop and make a kind of passable thing, but you give Photoshop to someone who actually knows design or photography, all this stuff, they can make works
Yep.
of art out of this thing, right? And I feel like that's
Yes.
the same thing with AI. Like, if you don't know marketing strategy or whatever thing you're trying to do, you're just not going to ask the right questions. And you can ask it to what questions should I ask you, which is a good trick, but you just don't know enough to even use the tool to your full advantage, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you on the strategist stuff.
Yeah, we've fully embraced AI. In fact, we're building our own patent pending AI agent technology to help us scale our business. The best way that I could describe the AI to me is it's a force multiplier. Someone who's
Yeah,
super smart, really experienced, can put that assistant to their right shoulder and become like 4 or 5 or sometimes 10 people in productivity. And that's kind of the
agreed.
magic. And
Agreed.
it's exciting. It's exciting. I've waited my entire career to be in a moment like this right now, both on the CTV side and on the AI technology side. This is a great time to be alive right now, Greg.
Oh, it's very exciting. You know, I just had a guy on a few weeks ago. He's built is him and two other co-founders, and they're building this completely AI first like tech startup. Only three founders, no employees. The AI is every employee basically, and I think they're shooting for like 20 million ARR like that. They're spending like 300 grand a year on just tokens, right? So
Oh,
they're going to
yes.
use and abuse the AI,
Yes. The
which I think is
tokens
very
are,
impressive. So
yes, exactly. And there's going to be many more small startups than we've ever seen. There'll probably be more startups in the next 2 or 3 years than we've seen in the last 20
I
years,
agree.
which is exciting because as entrepreneurs, we love that, right, Greg?
Yeah, of course. I think more people, like, if you're afraid of I think the place you need to go is to be an entrepreneur. Because if
Yeah.
you're the entrepreneur and you replace all your employees with AI and you were the employee, like, well, you're still the owner, right?
Yes.
You're
Right.
still the owner. So you're all right, right? Moving back to Amazon sellers, because I agree with you with all the chaos that's going on, especially right now, but in general, just running a business. There's probably some sellers maybe listening to this podcast who feel a bit stuck, right? And like
Sure.
they feel like they're spending more just to keep up, but they're still losing ground despite that
Yeah.
as margins are getting thinner. So what's your recommendation for them to take that first step to kind of break this increasingly like boiling frog scenario that they find
Yeah.
themselves in?
No, Greg, look, there's a lot of pressure right now. I talked briefly about tariffs. Tariffs are really painful for brands right now
Yes.
because they need to take cash flow that used to sit in their bank account until they started selling goods and hand a big chunk of it to the customs agent when their product lands. And they're losing weeks and months of cash flow time. And it's really painful. I think that probably Amazon sellers more than any other industry group are really feeling it. And so that's a lot of pressure. And then, of course, there's the Amazon fee structure. Although when we've compared a Shopify business's P&L to an Amazon business and we reorder the P&L to be apples to apples, the fees on Amazon aren't any more than the fees on Shopify when you think about it. Because, what you get with Amazon is a real heavy built-in traffic source, especially if you
Yeah.
hit all 7 avenues, right? And so you don't get that in Shopify. You got to pay for that.
Absolutely, man. Like, we had all the FBA aggregators. Like, I always call them our stepchildren because they would raise money to come to us first for their first deals, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of them, they try to go into Shopify. I always tell people it's better to go from DDC to Amazon than Amazon to DDC, because DDC is way harder, but Amazon holds your hand. So if you start
Yeah.
on Amazon and you go to Shopify, like, oh my God, it's so much harder to begin with, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm right with you on that.
No, I love that, Greg. I couldn't agree more. There's all these different paths to success, but I couldn't agree more with what you just said. And so, yeah, there's pressure. This has been a rough year. When we came in January with a lot of fanfare, everyone was excited, and then we're like, "Oh crap, it's tariffs!" And then on the agency side, it's AI. You can go to ChatGPT and get a pretty interesting answer for a problem that you're having right now. Now, it's not necessarily connected to your data like the tech we're building, and you don't want to feed Sam Altman your company information. because no one should trust Sam Altman. Sorry, Sam, nobody should trust you. But, those things are real and they're happening. Certainly you could look at sponsored ads, right? This is table stakes now. If you don't do sponsored ads, you're toast. You can't not do them and have any kind of success. There's a lot of these table stake things. We see brands come to us. Maybe we're just managing ads for them, or maybe they're full service. And, we're still seeing, a lot of broad campaigns, a lot of automatic campaigns, and there's a lot of keywords in there they should not be paying for. So just basic 101 keyword optimization, negate keywords that are not your product, optimize, double down, build exact campaigns, build top of search campaigns for some of those longer tail keywords, really optimize that. I think we, especially as an agency, we really fall in love with traffic growth. We love seeing traffic growth. On the 7 avenues, if your sales are down, if there's not a presence avenue, the next thing we look at is traffic. And then we look at the margin and say, can we increase paid traffic or not? And so that's kind of part of our strategic flow. And so you need to be able to optimize all of that bottom funnel, that more sales functioning, and maximize your profits there so that you can take some of those profits and reinvest in brand and marketing. The best way to survive, there's not a US seller today that I know of who can compete with the Chinese brands who come in and compete on price. And they're getting really good on quality, and they're getting even better on brand. Because you know why? Because they're using all that AI, and they don't have the Chinglish in the listings anymore from these guys. They're really competitive. So if you think you're going to come in here and lower your cost to the point where you can match price with the Chinese sellers, you're just dead wrong. So it requires a different kind of mindset. It requires a strategy, and it requires the mental mindset to say, I am going to price high and justify. I need to differentiate my product. I need to have the best marketing materials, the best, differentiated marketing materials. I need to see what my click-through rate, and I need to optimize for click-through rate and conversion rate. I need to wow my customers. I need 4s and 5 stars only, and I need to iterate on that product to make it better. There is still an opportunity. None of our brands, Greg, are the low price leader. Not one of them. They are all at least 20% to 30% more expensive than the top 10 sellers, but they're still in the top 100, and they're still driving traffic, and they're growing their brand customer base with new to brand, and they're making money, and they're reinvesting that money in smart ways to introduce their brand to new customers that look like them. To me, that is the game. And I go back to what I said about my 1945 P&G analogy. There has not been a time in history for challenger brands like now to make that leap from just another sales organization to a brand that Greg can sell for you at a multiple of top line rather than EBITDA than right now. Right now, you've got a lot of tools. You've got a lot of great agencies that are employing tools, and you've got a great way to get your product right and perfect and in front of not tens of thousands of people, not 100,000 people, millions of people that look just like your customer. That's the game, Greg. There's challenger brands being born today that we're going to remember their name for the next 50 to 100 years. And that's our mission. That's Avenue 7's mission. When I'm in my rocking chair, retired, and I'm looking at my device or through my glasses or my heads up display, watching television, and I see a TV ad for a brand that we started when nobody knew who they were. That's our mission driven opportunity here at Av7. And that's what we do every day.
I love everything you just said there, man. You really are a marketer after my own heart. Because I always say entrepreneurs underprice themselves. Like they're almost afraid to charge more money, right? Especially when they first begin. But if you're trying to be the cheapest, the only way it works is if you are the cheapest with the biggest scale, right? So you basically have to be like the Walmart of your industry, right?
Yeah.
If you're the second cheapest, why would anyone choose you? There's no benefit of being the second cheapest.
That's
right.
right.
You go premium, like there's all sorts of stuff you can do up there, and with such better margins, right? So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, and Greg, you remember those scar tissue I was telling you about for 17 years? I literally tried all this. Okay, I tried it all, and then like, I'll give you one example with an air hockey table. Like we tried to compete on price when we came out, and then the Chinese started introducing their own listings, and they were bad listings back then. But then I started reading all of our product reviews for our brand and our product. And I found on an air hockey table that, 2 or 3 and then 5 or 6 were complaining that the air hockey puck had a dead spot on the table. And I was like, "Ooh, that's not good." And the Chinese had dead spots on the table. So I was reading every single product review for every product I introduced to the market. And then I went back to my product engineers, and then I went back to my factory, and I said, "We need no dead spots." And I paid 50 cents more on a $99 table in order to make sure that none of our customers ever experienced a dead spot again. And our bad reviews went away. And then our rank increased. We started to drive more traffic. And guess what? We raised our price and we didn't lose any rank. And so that's like a small little tactical, real example of what the game really should be. Now, the problem is the Chinese are so much smarter now than they were back when I was competing with them on the air hockey table. So you really have to add both the quality of product and the differentiation, and then you have to add the brand awareness to that. Again, that's where DSP comes in. That's where CTV comes in. We don't do this at our agency yet, but that's where free social media content. Go get, start creating videos and launch that stuff on TikTok. One viral video will change your life right now. It's a very magical time in social media as well.
Yeah.
And so that's the game, Greg. Folks that have a sales mentality and not a branding and marketing mentality will not win the game that's at foot right now.
You made me think of two stories that reinforces this point. I'm staying on this point because I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this because
Sure.
they always
I did.
want to compete on price.
Yeah.
But I have a friend out in California. He started a e-commerce business selling, I forget exactly what it was. It's like something with laundry. Like I think it was laundry detergent, but
yeah,
this is you cannot get a more commoditized product than this product, right? But he made it with all these unique perfumes and smells and like crazy cool designs, used comedy as part of the marketing. And he made it into basically an 8-figure business within a year,
brilliant.
It's all positioning. People are buying it for the joke, it's like Cards Against Humanity or the Basic Tees guys who now they have a marketing course on using comedy and ads, but it's just like a white t-shirt, but it's so funny. You're buying this 3x the price of a normal t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
So I think that people way undervalue that brand stuff. And then the other story that you made me think of was there was this marketing agency. They went to this New York office of a prospective client, and their company was all sales focused, right? And they're like, we can't get new customers. What's going on here? And he looked at their ad accounts and he's like, well, you need to run ads not with this segment, but with this brand new cold segment. But they're like, but that's our best segment. He's like, well, of course, because the only segment you're running ads to is a retargeting list. That's why you're not getting any new customers. Like,
that's right.
Of course, it's going to perform the best.
That's right. That's right. And Greg, we got to double down. We got to keep talking about this. This is so important, right? If there's nobody coming in at the top of the funnel, that retargeting is not going to work.
Right.
And it's like, that is why we developed our stair step. We call it our stair step to the cloud, which is international brand fame. That's the cloud, right? And we start at the bottom funnel. It's totally fine to focus on conversion metrics and sponsored products. It's totally fine to focus on DSP lower funnel. Make that money, put some money in the bank, and then you've got to reinvest it to bring in those new to brand shoppers. If you don't introduce your brand to people who look like your existing customers who've never heard of you, you're not going to grow. But if you find that sweet spot, magic happens, hockey stick happens, like your friend who did the laundry detergent. And it reminds me of something I learned from my co-author, Rick Cesare, who's an old DRTV guy, was a mega DRTV guy back in the day. And he taught me this once. He said, different is better than better. Your product has to be as good because of, these reviews, but you've got to figure out how to differentiate. And it sounds like your friend who started the laundry detergent said, there's a million big brands like Tide, like a lot of other big brands out there. Where's my niche? Where can I differentiate, be different, and be unique? That is Entrepreneurship 301. That's the graduate level course there. And that's the way you can have your brand today become famous tomorrow.
Man, I could spend probably another episode talking to you about just this specific part, but we are coming up on time.
Let's do it, Greg. Let's do it.
We definitely should do a part 2 because I think it's most of my questions. But I really enjoyed this podcast. But before we move into the rapid fire section, I do want to ask you another question. Since you're pretty heavily in the space, you mentioned you're working on software and everything that's going on with AI. So with what you're seeing, what are some of the macro trends like in AI with the supply chain, everything that's happening, consumer behavior shifts? Like what is happening in the Amazon marketplace? Like, what do you see coming down the road that sellers really need to focus on the next few years?
if I could just take a couple minutes, I'll share what we're building. Our first tool is a Presence Avenue tool. It's called av7lift.ai. There's a landing page right now if you guys want to sign up and be in on the ground floor with this new tool. We use a combination of traditional deterministic code, a very robust data layer. The data layer is what kills all the VCs, backed companies doing tech on top of Amazon, because it is some of the worst, most effed up data that anyone has ever seen in their life. My former Microsoft engineers remind me of this every week when we're doing stand-ups. And I like to remind them, yes, but you get what you pay for. And we paid $0 to get access to that API. So figure it the F out. And so we've built this great data layer. We have this deterministic code. We have both a hard inferencing engine and we have Gen AI. We just completed what we call our root cause agent. There are so many data points that point to something like, on-time delivery rate, right? There's so many different things that can lead to a negative on-time delivery rate that can lead to you losing your FBM capabilities, which could lead to you losing your account.
Right.
And so what we have built with Av7Lift is a tool that is first monitoring it. Every day we're monitoring, identifying and surfacing for you and a desktop app right now. We'll move it over to a mobile app soon. That tells you, hey, these are all of the things that can lead to you losing all of your revenue every day with an account suspension or a listing suspension. Here are the 8 to 6 things it could be. And then our AI engine is processing all of that based on our 2,479 rules that we've fed into the system based on our decades of experience, and train this AI system to come back and say, you've got this problem. Here's the root cause. In some cases, we will say, this is what we recommend you do about it. In other cases, it's complicated. Connect to us, pay us a small fee, and we'll fix it for you. So that's our Presence Avenue. That's Av7Lift tool that we're building that's launching in September, end of September. So that is one use case of AI. We're taking processes, systems that, unless you've been in the game for 20 years, are really hard to know what the solution is. And we're ingesting them into a tech tool that every seller can use to solve their number one problem. Dale would say financial is your number one problem, but we joke, right? Your number one problem is, can your damn listing show up the way you want it to? Can it get searched, clicked on, and added to cart? If not, you're not playing the game. You showed up with a baseball to a soccer match and it's not going to work, right? And so that's one of the tools that we're building. The entire world, Greg, is being rebuilt. They're transitioning from what I call the dumb dashboard era to the generative AI era, where people don't want to look at a dumb dashboard and have to figure out how to connect the numbers and the dots. They want insights delivered. They want the executive summary delivered. Our tool, sort of phase 2 and 3, is, brand wakes up in the morning, they put their ear pod in, they take their dog for a walk, and they hear a podcast about what happened to their business last week and where they should focus their energy. A true expert system partner that can help them prioritize their listings, can prioritize the work and the strategy that they need to execute. That's what we have patent pending right now, a true marketplace e-commerce expert system that fires all 7 avenues. We're launching Presence next. So that's where we put all of our chips in, Greg. Some other things, there's a company called PathLM. My good friend James Thompson is, I believe, an investor in the company. And they take these still images and create really good video. We're in the video age, and they can create 10,000 videos for you like that, where it used to take 200 people 3 years to build, right? Video generation. Our teams are using for a rough draft copy creation. We built our own internal, our creative avenue team is doing that. So again, it goes back to the whole world is changing to the world of LLMs. Agentic is next. All of our avenues will have its own agentic stack with one sort of maestra orchestration agent over top of them that picks what the most important thing is to focus on and function on. And the nice thing about the 7 avenues, we'll apply that to a Shopify store. It's an e-commerce strategy. It's not just Amazon. It's just born on the most difficult channel, Amazon. And, the creative side, I think the big 5 ad holding companies are in trouble. They've got a lot of headcount that used to create and do content generation machines, and they're just not getting hired anymore because there's such great AI that does a good enough version that you can iterate from. There's financial insights that can be pulled out. There's strategy insights that can be pulled out. The idea that you would have to go to a dashboard, click 3 or 4 levels deep, filter 6 or 7 times to see the data that you want to see, and then figure out what it means is over.
Yeah.
Anyone that has a dumb dashboard software system, if they're not moving towards insights, they won't be here in 2 years, Greg. I think that's how dramatic. I don't mean to sound melodramatic, but I believe it.
No, I agree.
In my marrow. And that's why we pushed all of our chips in on this agentic AI to help us scale our agency so that we can do more, better, faster, but also open it up to the seller community that I have a soft spot for in my heart, because I was one starting all the way back in the Stone Age in 2003.
I love it. I couldn't agree more, man. I think like on one hand, like with agencies, I think they're going to enter a profit renaissance because like as you scale an agency, you usually do that with labor, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that labor doesn't need to be there anymore with what's going on. So I agree with pretty much everything you said there. All right. Well, we're coming at the end of the podcast here. I have 3 rapid fire questions for you. You give me 3 rapid fire answers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1, what is the best hidden growth opportunities in Amazon FBA today?
Certainly the full funnel advertising, brand awareness, brand building opportunity is the cheapest it will ever be. Get it on the ground floor now and become the next Procter & Gamble. Do it. Do it now. Stop everything. Cut your Facebook marketing advertising in half and dump it into CTV right now. Do it today.
All right. Question 2, what tools or resources can people use to help them improve their Amazon advertising?
Amazon advertising. This is a great one. I have tried every ad tool out there and been left wanting. Greg, again, most of the ad tools out there fall into the dumb dashboard category. Yeah. You got to hire somebody at the tech company in order to help them, determine how to use their software, which is a fail in my point, right? If you don't have the iPad type of infrastructure where a 6-year-old can pick it up and run with it, you've failed. So I don't have a good ad tool. We are going to build our own for the traffic avenue that incorporates both deterministic code and generative AI so that we can deliver the insights without painstaking, agonizing, eye-crossing work that's necessary to do things like keyword optimization and scaling. And so we're going to build our own. Let's talk maybe in Q1 and I can tell you what we've built. But the most effective marketers that I have seen on the advertising side are using that search query reporting that's available on Amazon. They're pivoting those things in spreadsheets and delivering real results.
Gotcha. And that makes sense to me. I agree with that. Like I have a love-hate relationship with HubSpot because it's also very complex and very complex considering like how many leads and different things we got going on. So I'm with you. You need to have an employee just to like use the software correctly, right?
Yes.
All right.
Greg, I have a theory for why software ends up that way. You get a founder, they have an idea, they launch this thing, they launch with a hair on fire problem, they solve it, and then they hire these really talented, super smart account managers to go out and talk to users of the product. The users who don't really have a full, 7 avenues strategy in mind, they have bright ideas. We call them BIs. They show up with BIs. They take these BIs to the account manager. The account manager goes, great, I'm going to put that in the roadmap. And the founder loses the vision for what the tool was supposed to be in the first place. They take these BIs, they Frankenstein these things into the technology. And before you know it, you have to pay someone $5,000 a month in order to use the damn tool because you don't understand how it works.
I think that's probably pretty accurate as well.
And what we do here is say no a lot. And we say why, right? We do that with our agency clients, and sometimes it pisses them off, but they come back and love us after they see why we're saying that and saying no. And so the software companies out there that don't know how to say no, don't hold tight and true to their vision, you take that feedback, but you fit it in with your vision. This tool should work for you, not you work for it, right? That's the problem with SaaS as I see it. And generative AI is going to really help solve for that problem.
Yeah, I agree with that bloat problem. All right, final question.
Sorry, that was not a rapid fire answer. I'm so sorry, Greg.
You gave me the warning earlier on that you don't do it quick, right? So it's all good. It's all good. Final question, though. What has been your funniest moment since you started working in the Amazon ecosystem?
Oh, my gosh. So many years of doing this. There's always something we're laughing about. It's funny. The story that immediately popped into my head is back when I was a brand and I was a seller. Well, one of our product categories were these arcade games like Miss Pac-Man Galaga. We would ship these things all over the country to the customer's home. And then one year, right before holiday season, and my brother was managing customer service for us at the time, he took this call. This lovely woman in San Diego had bought a Miss Pac-Man Galaga for her boyfriend, and she was going to surprise him for Christmas. And so it was a last minute thing. We had to move heaven and earth to get this thing from where our warehouse was to San Diego. And we did it. And this thing is en route. I'm sitting in my brother's office. He takes the call from this shopper and she's in tears crying. And she's like, oh, she's crying. And Elon, my brother's like, well, what's the matter? What's going on? She's like, cancel the shipment, cancel it. And we're like, why? Why cancel it? He just dumped me. Oh, no. So the boyfriend that she had spent $5,000 for this arcade on had dumped it. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that he dumped you. We will absolutely turn it around. Don't worry about it. And I'm sitting across from the desk. And I'm like, wait. I was single at the time. I was like, wait. Tell her I'm single.
Gotta save this cell. Always be closing.
I figured if there was a gal out there willing to drop $5,000 on a boyfriend, I'm interested in her. I want to talk to that lady.
That is awesome, man. That's a great story. Okay, so if someone wants to connect with you, man, maybe they want to hire you for your agency with what you're doing, or just pick your brain, where's the best place for us to send our listeners to?
Oh, great. So I'm active on Twitter, semi-active. Operations take me away from it. It's Jason R. Boyce X. And, you can send me an email. Jason, it's just JASON at avenue7media.com. It takes me a while to get back to everybody these days, but if I can't get back to you quickly, I'll put you in contact with the right people at our organization so that you can talk to. Our website is avenue7media.com. And if you want to be on the ground floor with our Av7 Lift AI tool, that email address, we've got a landing page that we're collecting wait lists for. So join it quickly because, the first couple hundred folks get a free audit on your catalog from our team. And that's AVE7 Lift, LIFT.ai. So any of those ways, send me an email, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jason R. Boyce on LinkedIn or on Twitter. We love brands. We love sellers. We want every one of the sellers we work with to be the famous Procter & Gamble brand of the next 100 years. That's our mission.
I think that's a great mission, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I had an absolute pleasure. And yeah, we'll have to do part 2, man. Like I said,
let's do it, Greg. Yeah, I'm sorry. I talked so much. You didn't even get to have your questions.
I think this was really, really valuable, especially that price point bit, because that is such a massive mistake. But yeah, dude, it was a pleasure having you on. We'll put all the links in the show notes down below. So if anyone listening want to connect with Jason, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Right. Yep. Thanks for coming on, man. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace, or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell-your-site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.